Constitutions are living organisms. Hence, constitutions give life. The only way to give is when you had something to begin with. But even more importantly than having it to begin with, you must possess a corresponding power over that thing to give. So whenever you give without having a corresponding power to give, that is illegitimate giving. Legitimate giving is the giving that originates out of a corresponding power over a thing. So constitutions create, constitutions have legitimacy to donate constitutional life. So a constitutional creation relies on constitutional life and constitutional sustaining. So whatsoever the Constitution has created, the Constitution must donate life to it. Then the Constitution must sustain that thing. But even more importantly is the realization that the giver possesses a corresponding absolute power to take back. So if a constitution has given you something, the constitution has the power to take it. For the power to give is absolute, but the power to take back is more absolute. It's very important that we restrict ourselves to that understanding as far as we are approaching this subject matter. So if constitutions are living, the question is, are constitutions susceptible? Are the constitutions susceptible to what it's called phenomenon of growth? The phenomenon of growth simply holds that all life form must grow. So it's important to ask ourselves, what life form is the Constitution? Because the Constitution is not vegetative life form. The Constitution is not animalistic life form. For animalistic life form must grow according to animalistic life expectations. Vegetative or vegetational life form also grow according to vegetational life expectation. Constitutional life forms are actually determined by the wishes and the desires of the people. So it is the people having a wish, and that wish we express it, and that expression must be arrived at constitutionally. So the Constitution adjusts according to the wishes of the people. So what are the growth determinants of any constitution? The growth determinant of any constitution is the expectation, the desires, the wishes of a people in time. Time is a very important element in helping us appreciate all of this life vicissitude. It is important that whenever we want to understand the life expectation of the Constitution, we are looking at it in time. Constitutions have always had these safeguards to manage growth, to manage what can be introduced or what can be practiced in any given territory. Constitutions have what it's called the repugnance article. The repugnance article simply holds that whatsoever is repugnant to an existing constitution will not be practiced, will not be exercised. Repugnance simply means to be in opposition with, to be in opposition to. So whatsoever is in opposition to the Constitution will not even be considered. Whatsoever is in conflict with a written constitution will not even be considered. But in the case of Kenya, the most progressive aspect is what it's called the infallibility of the Constitution. More than just having a repugnance article, the Kenyan Constitution retains something called the infallibility of the Constitution. When you look at Article 2.3, the supremacy of this Constitution, Article 2.3 holds the validity or legality of this Constitution is not subject to challenge by or before any other court or any state organ. That is the infallibility of the Kenyan Constitution. That one of those things that the Constitution of Kenya has put inbuilt within itself, one is the self-sustaining. That self-sustaining mechanism under the Constitution of Kenya is the infallibility article, that infallibility safeguard of the Constitution. Whenever you want to see or whenever you want to check the Constitution, you first of all begin with, I realize I am in error. I realize I'm the one in error. That is the infallibility of the Kenyan Constitution. This question wants us to understand, then what is the basic structure doctrine? When we have the repugnance article and when we have a constitutional provision that has the effect of infallibility, then what is the basic structure doctrine? Majority of us, we were introduced to this phrase during the BBI pronouncement from the High Court when the learned judges said that such what the political class was seeking to do was repugnant because it threatened the basic structure doctrine. So it's very important to begin with that. What is the basic structure doctrine? The basic structure doctrine simply holds this. There are things that are beyond the political class in the Constitution. There are things in the Constitution that if you want to do anything on them, you must first go back to the people. So the other qualifier is, then who is the people? Because when you're looking at the proponents of the BBI at the High Court, they were saying the president also qualifies as the people. But the learned judges said the moment the president has been elected, the president ceases from being the people because the presidency is now an institution. So that means the president has unfair advantage over the people. So the basic structure document holds, the basic structure doctrine holds that there are things that in the Constitution, in order, in as much as the Constitution is infallible, in as much as the Constitution cannot be checked, but there are things in the Constitution, if the wishes of the people so arrive at that point, then it is the people themselves under the Constitution to originate such changes. The basic structure doctrine also has two important points of inflections. These two important points of inflections are: one, are we amending the Constitution or are we substituting the Constitution? There are very clever people that from time to time, they would want to circumvent the repugnance article. Sometimes people will even want to circumvent, in the Kenyan scenario, we will want to circumvent the infallibility article by introducing things. So let me tell us something. There are two important levels in law that all of us must understand. That sometimes in law, when you want to challenge something, you go at that thing directly. When you have strong points, you go at it directly. When you have points that are growing, gradual points, then you approach it collaterally. So when we are looking at the basic structure doctrine, the basic structure doctrine means what is the intent of the mover, particularly in the Kenyan instance, was in the BBI. What was the intent? Was the intent merely to amend the Constitution? When the learned judges weighed the intent according on what was happening, the state of facts, and when they measured the state of fact in what was on the law, they realized that the intent was not merely to amend, but the intent was to substitute. So when you're trying to substitute the Constitution, then under the basic structure doctrine, you are removing those foundational things. So the basic structure doctrine has two important lessons that I want us to go with. One, there are things that only the people can originate. Secondly, there are things that even if the people wanted to originate, they cannot originate. So it's very important that when we are thinking of the basic structure, that is what it holds. That in order for us to amend this Constitution, there are certain engagements that only the people must originate. We have agreed that the people might originate it, but there are other things in the Constitution that even if the people wanted to originate, they cannot originate. Let me give us a classic example. When you're looking at the Article 1 of the Kenyan Constitution, Article 1 says the sovereignty of the people. That is the basic structure of this entire constitution. You remember there is a video we did a while back, and in the video we said that the provisions of the constitution are not at the same level. There are other provisions of the constitution that has supremacy over other provisions. Now this is that one. This is one such provision: sovereignty of the people. In the 2010 constitution, there is nothing that you can do to challenge the sovereignty of the people. There is nothing you can do in amendment. There is nothing you can do in substitution that can challenge the sovereignty of the people. So in so regard, the safeguard of the constitution is to protect the placing, the position of the people. That when it comes to the people, they are supreme. They might be educated or uneducated, they are supreme. They might be wealthy, they might come from very challenged backgrounds, they are supreme. They might be old, they are supreme. They might be younger, they are supreme. So when we are looking at the doctrine of what it's called the Basic Structure Doctrine, we are looking at those two important elements. And for the sake of this video, that is what I wanted us to appreciate. That in order for us to determine the levels of growth, we are looking at, in this growth aspect of the Constitution, are we changing the foundation of the Constitution? The basic foundation of the Constitution is the people are supreme. You begin from there. The other one is what we would call the infallibility of this constitution. Whenever you want to check or challenge this constitution, it is safer for you to challenge it from this point. I realize in this endeavor, I might be wrong. So it is safer when you start that way. Why? The constitution has given to itself infallibility. The 2010 Constitution of the Republic of Kenya has given to itself infallibility. If that is not enough, and I don't see a situation whereby you're going to pass that test, but if that is not enough, then we have what is called the repugnance clause. The repugnance article simply holds that anything in this constitution that is in opposition to this constitution will not even be considered in the territory of Kenya. My name is Ogwang. I want to hope that I've addressed my attention to this question to the best of my ability, but even more importantly, to your satisfaction. If there is something that you feel that I might have left out, kindly let's interact in the comment section. And if you've reached this far, please consider rewarding me with a like. Consider rewarding me with a share. Share this video in your community, in your circles, and let us learn together. What do you think is the Basic Structure Doctrine? My name is Ogwang. I'm the principal of Franchise and Licensing Institute, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care. God bless, and bye-bye.